Good afternoon, Robert Scribbler. It is August 17th, 2018. Thank you for joining me for another climate change and clean energy video blog. Now for this segment, I'm going to provide some updates on electrical vehicles, which are a critical part of the clean energy revolution due to their ability to reduce oil burning in ground transportation and due to their ability to mate directly with wind and solar technology for a zero emissions transportation chain, and also due to their ability to increase the global deployment of battery systems which can store energy from clean energy generation sources like wind and solar. But before I get into that, I would like to just highlight a few comments by Dr. Michael Mann today, and just a couple of statements which I think are extraordinarily valid to the present conversation. And Dr. Mann notes that at this point there are no physical obstacles to averting the worst impacts of climate change, only political ones. And Dr. Mann goes on to state that Rome wasn't built in a day, same with the clean energy revolution. What we need to do is introduce strong enough market incentives, subsidies for clean energy, and a price on carbon and other incentives so that we steadily move toward decarbonization of our energy and transportation infrastructure. So I've got to say that I agree with Dr. Mann on this point, but I think that there's a number of additional things that we need to do on top of supporting strong policy. Strong policy is absolutely a driver of increasing the speed of the transition to renewable energy. But in addition to that, I think those of us who are clean energy advocates need to speak out on in our support of companies that are doing the right thing, and to do our best to publicly support both individuals and private institutions that are also taking part in the clean energy transition. So there's a public aspect of what's going on which is absolutely critical, and that has an amazing impact on what happens to the clean energy chain. But in addition to that, what we do as environmentalists and as those who are concerned about climate change and as those who support clean energy in our ability to speak out to support those that are doing the right thing is also very important, which is one of the reasons why I keep talking about it. So just to get into some of the news today. First off, I'd just like to note that BYD, which is a major electrical vehicle producer in China, has achieved 50% of all sales, all of its automotive sales are plug-ins, which is a strong achievement. My personal opinion is that we should support the Tesla model, which is 100% clean energy vehicle corporation, but if BYD is moving in that direction, then that's a good thing. Just to drill down to some points here, and I'm going to just recommend that you read this article from Inside EVs. I'm just going to hit some of the major points here before I move on, is that July sales of plug-in electric cars in China for BYD hit close to 20,000, which is an extraordinary number, and this due in large part to China's policy support, as Dr. Mann previously noted, of electrical vehicles in China. So big milestones being hit by BYD this month. I'd also like to talk about a recent report from an analyst that was invited to the Fremont factory that found that Tesla, which in my opinion is kind of the ideal model for a clean energy transport company, because there's really no revenue for Tesla that's dependent on fossil fuel based energy systems. It's a 100% clean energy company. And in my opinion, this is the reason why Tesla gets attacked all the time. So if you're someone that follows clean energy and you hear a lot of negative news about Tesla, just consider the fact that one of the reasons why Tesla is probably receiving all this negative news is because they're the leader. They are setting the example for the rest of the auto industry as to what to do in response to human-caused climate change, and how we can more rapidly transition vehicles to clean transport. So they're getting the flack primarily because they're breaking new ground, and they're accelerating the clean energy transition. Now, this analyst notes that the company is on a glide path for a 8,000 unit per week Model 3 production, and that the path to 10,000 per week is not quite as clear, but it looks like we could be seeing 8,000 per week by sometime mid to late this fall. And if Tesla produces 8,000 Model 3s per week, then that also implies they're producing about 10,000 electrical vehicles per week, and extrapolated over a year, that's more than 500,000, which is just insane. And that's good news from the clean energy standpoint. So more kudos for Tesla. Now, I'd also like to note that the Nissan Leaf, according to Inside EVs, is outselling the Pulsar ICE in the UK by a 2-to-1 margin, and this is a big deal. In my opinion, electrical vehicles have a lot of advantages over internal combustion engine vehicles, not just from the issue of pollution, but also from the issue of various performance parameters and various convenience parameters, as well as lower cost of ownership. And this quality, this increasing quality, appears to be translating into much higher demand for electrical vehicles. I would just also like to note that the Nissan Pulsar is an ICE counterpart that is produced by Nissan, and so it's, in a way, it's a good comparison of the competitive values of electrical vehicles versus internal combustion engine based vehicles. Now, some Japanese automakers have dragged their feet when it comes to mass producing electrical vehicles. Nissan is not one of those. They certainly have mass produced the Leaf, but would just like to say that there should be strong incentives for automakers like Nissan, proven electrical vehicle automakers like Nissan, to transition to clean energy. So just some things to think about with regards to present clean energy transport trends for the day. I'm going to shift gears a little bit to try and provide some context about the difference between those who support clean energy and those who support fossil fuels. And I'd just like to read this statement from Peter Gleick, who is a scientist, and he is responding to Ryan Zinke's claims that California wildfires are the result of environmental terrorist groups. Well, first off, there's absolutely no evidence that environmental terrorist groups are causing the wildfires in California. The baseline cause of the wildfires in California is increasing temperatures, which increase wildfire risk, and that as a result, any fire that is set either accidentally by human beings or intentionally by arsonists or due to a lightning strike is much more likely to become much larger due to the extreme heat and dryness that is occurring. Now, of course, we certainly do want to condemn any individual that has intentionally set a fire, but there's no indication that the people who are setting fire are environmental terrorists. Peter Gleick notes that Ryan Zinke blames environmental terrorist groups for severity of California wildfires. I call BS. Unless those who have blocked, hindered, and stymied action on climate change are environmental terrorists. And in truth, yes, it's the fossil fuel burning that has increased the risk of wildfires in California. And so if you're pointing a finger at a group that is most to blame for the wildfire intensity in California, it's those that support fossil fuel burning, which includes Ryan Zinke. So just a context between, well, a contextual comparison between those of us who support clean energy solutions and those who attempt to block it, like Ryan Zinke. Thank you for joining me, and I'll be chatting with you soon.